Okay, we'll go ahead and get started. Hi, everybody. My name is Lexi, and I'm with the Marketing and PR Department at QuantConnect. Thank you to everyone for joining us tonight. Welcome if it's your first time, and welcome back if you're returning. This is our 5th monthly meetup. We hold them on the last Thursday of the month at alternating times to accommodate our friends around the globe. The schedule for tonight will begin with one of our engineers giving a quick tutorial on generating data for backtesting strategies on your local machine. We hope you enjoy the presentation, and if it sparks any research ideas or trading hypotheses, we hope you join us on QuantConnect.com. And with that, Colton, I'll let you go ahead and get started.
Hi guys, my name is Colton Sellers. I'm an associate software engineer here at QuantConnect, and today I'll be giving a presentation on a tool of ours called the RandomDataGenerator. So this tool in particular was created as a way to give Lean users an option to test their algorithms without needing to purchase or download real financial data. And to reflect market or realistic market data, we use a Brownian motion implementation to generate the data. So with that, let's go ahead and get started. Oh, sorry, Lexi, do you mind turning on screen sharing for me? Thank you.
It should be good to go now.
All right, do you guys see my virtual machine?
Yep, we can see
Excellent. So I actually wrote down a instructional to kind of help you guys along if you want to follow along. No pressure though otherwise. Mostly for followability later if other people want to try this on their own. I'll be going kind of fast, but all the steps are included. So I will put that in the Zoom if I can. Oh, it looks like they cut me off on my instructions. And you know what, this chat box might not be best for this. I'll still include it all there, but I'll also give these instructions to Lexi so she can include them in the video recording. Sorry about that. One more step. So I broke it up into 4 sections just to make it as simple and as easy for people to give it a try on their own. The first section is all about getting yourself set up with the Lean in Visual Studios. I've already completed all these steps for setting it up, particularly because it takes some time to download and get the repo in. So I'm going to skip the first section on Lean open source setup. But the gist of it is get Lean from Git. You can either use our GitHub and download the zip directly, install Git on your machine and use Git clone instead, and then use VS to open the project. In this tutorial, I'll be using VS 2019, and the only 2 things you'll need to do it are VS 2019 and the .NET 4.6.2 developer pack. So I'm just going to go ahead and open Lean and show you in VS here. So in the Lean repository, the solution file is the QuantConnect.lean.sln. If you open that with VS, it'll open up everything for you nice and easy. So the very first thing we have to do just before we can use this tool or even look at the toolbox is we'll have to build Lean because as of right now, the repository is clean. It's just the source files. So if you open up Lean, go ahead and build your solution.
Colton?
Yeah.
May I ask a question?
Of course.
First, thank you for your time and putting this together. So all of the, just Visual Studio 2019, is this the installation? Is there a virtual machine that we can get with everything on it, or some kind of Docker image?
We actually don't have that for VS. We do have a Docker image that you can use in conjunction with your local machine, but there isn't a dedicated VM for development. That is something that we should look at, though. That is a good idea, and that's actually what I'm using right now, as you can see.
Right. Yeah. So I was just curious if this image was available instead of having to install all that stuff.
You know, that's a good point. If I can package this up, let me check in with Jared and see if there's somewhere that I can put it out there. But that is a good idea. I'll take that into consideration.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah,
And
no problem.
this is the free version of VS 2019, right? Or do you have to get a license for it?
This is VS 2019 Community, the free version.
All right. Thanks.
No problem. All right, it looks like we successfully built the Lean project. Now, the first step we're gonna have to do is to use the toolbox to generate, actually. First, I'm going to pull up the documentation on it, just so you guys can see where that is at, and I'll also include a link. So as our documentation states, you have to go find the executable for QuantConnect toolbox and use the parameter to define the application. The application we're going through is the random data generator, so this page is perfect and straightforward. So first I'm going to open up a command prompt and get us to where that exe lives. I like PowerShell, people use bash, command line, it all works the same. So I know that our toolbox lives in the toolbox directory, and because I just built in debug form, I'm going to go to the bin debug file and look at my binaries and compiled files. Now, this is filled with a ton of files, all the DLLs, all the dependencies it needs, everything. But for our case, we're just looking for the toolbox exe. So if you're in bash, you can use grep, but I'm going to use get child item with PowerShell, and I'm going to look for the file. So we see it was created at 6:06, just a way of confirming to myself to see that it's there. I didn't want to run it and have some errors get thrown because it can't find it. But now that I know it's there, I'm going to write a command to generate some data. So first, call the exe itself. And then we're going to feed the params. The parameter to use the random data generator is the app param. Type that out. Then some of the parameters that are optional, as we saw here, include the resolution, the from date, the to date, the market that it's included in, the density of the data that it creates, if you want to include course data, and then the amount of symbols you'd like to generate. A lot of these have default params, so you won't have to worry about defining them all. And for the sake of this tutorial, I'm just going to give a really simple one. And it is, we're going to go resolution first. I'm going to set it to daily so we can get some daily data. A start date, which let's choose 2018, January 1st. And an end date, 2019, January 1st. So we're going to generate a whole year's worth of daily data. Market, USA to make it straightforward. And then the amount of symbols that I want to generate, which is a required param. Let's just do 3 and enter. So this goes through a couple different processes, none of which really concern you as much, but to give some more insight into what's happening, it might be helpful to know. First, it will go and create the data for these tickers that it randomly generated. Once that data has been created, including random events like ticker changes, dividends, splits, all the above, all the stuff that you'd expect to see with a real ticker or a real security. Then it takes all that information that we created in the daily data and it creates coarse fundamental data to reflect the fundamentals of these securities that we just created. So not only are we creating trade bar data for every day, we're also creating events like realistic events and also the fundamentals that we can analyze for universal selection. Now that we have created this data, actually this is a good time to take a stop and ask for any questions before I move forward.
So Colton, I'm curious about because I'm brand new to QuantConnect. I think I've gotten through 25% of the boot camp. So you have to forgive me my newbie questions.
No worries.
So
every question's a good one.
What the need for this is because I don't want to use the backtesting in QuantConnect?
I would say for your purposes, if you are comfortable in the web IDE because you don't have access to the rest of the engine, the QuantConnect data is real and good. You can stick with that. But for the sake of being able to step out and work on the entire engine like an open source contributor, or maybe you just want to be able to work in your own IDE environment, the random data generator is just a way to save some money and not have to purchase from our data providers through our website.
Oh, okay. So you're saying that if I'm all web-based in your IDE, then the cost is, it doesn't cost me?
Nope. Yeah, it's all our backtesting data is free and available through the web IDE.
Okay. So now, if I want to do local development, then I need this?
Yeah, so our repo comes with a set of data that we're allowed to distribute on our repo, and it's specifically for testing, well, mostly for testing. You could use daily data like we include with SPY, like all our SPY data is included in the repo. If you download Lean, you'll have access to all that for free for daily, but more finite like minute and second and tick data is all very limited in the open source distribution. So in order to have enough or a large enough data set or a versatile enough data set like options and all that, you'll want to use this tool to be able to backtest your algorithms locally instead of through the web IDE.
Okay. And it just speeds up the process is basically what you're saying?
Yeah, I think it's just well, one, you don't have to purchase any extra data, and you can still have a realistic trading environment. And when I say realistic, I want to be clear that loosely realistic, because as we all know, the markets are strange. But the idea, oh, go ahead.
So loosely realistic, meaning that this data that's produced here isn't just like random gibberish.
Exactly.
Okay.
So it follows a Brownian model, which is actually, it applies to a lot of things in nature, but it's like a, you know what, let me pull up the information that I had on it, because I was looking at this myself just earlier to make sure that we could talk about it a little bit. Yeah.
Right. Because, I mean, when I hear that, I just think you're going to take like maybe some real daily data and a couple points there, and you're just going to do some kind of regression that gives reasonable data between those points. And that's like this is all based off of real data. It's just that you regress the rest, or what is? Tell me more about what Brownian is doing.
So it's not based on real data, but rather that through the Brownian model, we can reflect what we see in actual markets. And if you were to look into this, the Brownian motion model, you'd see that it actually is very common for analyzing market behavior. It's random in a sense where you won't be able to predict what's next, but you will know that it's within a range. It's not going to be at one moment your ticker is at $90 and the next minute it's at 1, right? You'd expect to be a smooth regression between the two, right? And like a stochastics.
Okay. Thank you, Colton. And please let me know if I'm asking too many questions. I'm just I'm a curious fellow, little gregarious, but I'm very interested.
No, this is great. I appreciate questions. It makes it easier for me to slow down a little bit. That's why I asked. So thank you.
And you have one more question in the chat, Colton.
Oh, it looks like we do have a question. It says, can you generate random data on the QC web IDE? I believe that answer to that is no. If I were to double check, it might be possible in the research environment, but I'm gonna default on Derek's answer, who is a quant developer here at QuantConnect as well, and he said that it is not available in the web IDE, only through the toolbox. Thank you, Derek.
So Colton, if I wanted to actually just do local development and I needed to backtest, I would use the lean model, and I could pick whatever language I want at this point. I mean, between Python or C#. It looks like C# makes sense for this Visual Studio one. I haven't written Python in Visual Studio in 2019. I've used some other IDE, but can you tell me the comparison between the web IDE and this Visual Studio IDE?
You know, the biggest difference is just that with the Visual Studio IDE, you have the entire engine laid out in front of you, all the files, everything that's going on. Whereas with the web IDE, you're able to debug your algorithm directly, but you won't be able to look at anything else. And for most people, that's plenty enough, unless you're trying to do open source contributing or make changes to the Lean engine for your own repo. Then it would be a little bit nicer to, well, I guess you'll have to have it, right? You'll have to be able to see the changes, but you can do Python in VS. It's not as friendly to me. I use VS Code as a personal for using the Python algorithms, but you can do everything at the algorithm layer that you do here, as this is the same as the web IDE. The only difference is that if you want to go any deeper than the algorithm, you will have to use the actual repo locally.
Okay. And if I'm a test-driven developer, is there a testing framework I can use in both worlds, the web and the IDE, or the web and local dev, or is it only in local dev I can use a testing framework?
It would be in the local dev that you'd have to use a testing framework. Although I would suggest for those of you that are looking to, it's like testing or like research, the research environment in the web IDE through a Jupyter notebook is actually probably the best tool for algorithm design specifically. Now, if you're looking for testing specific parts of Lean, then yes, you'll have to do it locally with we use NUnit for our testing framework.
But a Jupyter notebook, does it have its own testing framework?
It doesn't. Not at all in the same way of testing as you would think traditionally. I only suggest that as like a research alternative, right? Or not alternative, a research environment.
See, Colton, I've been doing dev for a long time, but I just haven't become familiar with all these tools.
There's so many.
Huh?
There's so many.
There really are. And you know, when you're a newbie, you really would like to have a guide. And I'm looking for somebody who'd be willing to give me an hour or two just to help me get past that first 20%.
Right.
And do I just reach out to this group and say who would give me some time, or?
Yeah, definitely. I don't know if you were on our Slack as well. I'd say the Slack is a great place to reach out to people and get some advice on where to start and where to go. And I think too, like with this specific instance, I've given only one other presentation before at these meetups, is that I'm trying to get that information out, hopefully as seamlessly as possible, and have a recording that people can follow, that take the steps through. So yeah, just reach out, ask some people. I'm on the Slack as well. When I'm working, I'm around. I don't mind giving pointers or answering some questions. Especially, I like to see people learning Lean, and I myself have a lot to learn with Lean even now as I get further into this job.
For sure. And we also have tutoring. If you go onto our community forum page, you can see the tutors and you can book times with them, and they can go through all of those questions with you. Maybe for the sake of time, Colton, you can maybe continue your presentation. Nick, maybe you would have some questions at the end. Maybe Colton will answer them in his presentation. Is that okay with you guys?
Yeah, I'm sorry, Lexi.
No, it's totally fine. Totally fine. We appreciate the learning experience for sure.
All right, well, with that, I will move on to the next phase. So that first part, I believe if you guys saw my instructional, that was everything for data generation. Now, what we generated is important, and I'm gonna give a little rundown of what was created and how it can be used with Lean, or what it means to Lean is a better way to put it. So I just realized that I closed my PowerShell, which showed me the tickers that I created, which is a little sad, but I do know that we can create, oh, yep. So we see this at 6:11, these were all created. So that's how I'll know what my tickers are. I should have kept the window open, but that's on me. So the first thing that of the 4 important data files that were created when we ran that random data generator is the data, the trade bar data itself. So we'll go to daily, and then we can look at the sets of data we created. For this ticker, FOOM, we can see that its first emittance of data was at 2018, February 15th. And the format of these CSVs are actually defined in our README. So if you're ever looking at these, wrong README. If you're ever looking at these and you're curious what they are, they're right here. So with daily, we have our date times, our open, high, low, close, and volume. And for the open, high, low, and close, these are in decicents. So if you want to get to the dollars, divided by 10,000, and it'll be in dollar format. Now, another piece of important data that it creates is our factor files. And this is Lean's way of dealing with splits and dividends. And we're going to stick with FOOM for this, just to make it simple. But with FOOM, we see that on 2018, January 2nd, we have a price factor of 0.75. Now, what this tells me is that on the 2nd, we had a dividend paid at this price factor. Now, the actual math behind that is handled by Lean, so you don't have to worry about it, but it is 1 minus this price factor multiplied by the current value, and that'll give you the dividend that they paid for that date. Next, we have the map files. So map files are interesting and tricky because the name of them changes from time to time. If the ticker itself changed names, then the map file would have a new name and also have the previous names in it. So we actually know that Fume was CFV before 2018 February 14th. So that was just another random generated event, was that the ticker changed, or the securities ticker changed its listing. And last is our fundamental course data. This is the information I was talking about in the last section that is important for universal selection via fundamentals. There's ways, and you'll see this in the tutorials, you can filter based on fundamentals. There's course and find fundamentals, and the course includes very high level technical indicators, or not technical indicators, but technical values that you can filter by in Lean. Again, all of it's handled for you, but I just kind of wanted to give a dig down so you guys could see what actually is happening after you create these. Now, I know that Fume was first trading February 14th under that ticker, so I could pick any date in here that is after that, and I should likely see it. So let's just do the 21st. Here it is. So this is the interesting thing about the ticker changing after it was generated. The ticker is Fume, but because when it was originally listed, it was CFV, the security ID, which is this string, will be the original ticker, CFV. And with that, that is all the data that was generated and kind of how it plays into Lean. So let's go on to using the data, the last section. And before I switch, does anybody have any questions? Different distributions as a param. Sorry, Denny, you said, are you guys thinking about making it possible to choose from different distributions as a param? I'm not 100% sure what you mean by that. Do you mind clarifying? That's all right. Oh, thank you. Oh, I see what you're saying. We don't have other implementations of our random value generator, but yeah, there is information on the random data generator that talks about the interface that we created. It's called the RandomValueGenerator interface. And if you want to extend that class and create your own model for generating this data, you can. And it's really good to look at the one that we currently use just as some information. But yeah, we don't want to get too deep into the code there, but definitely take a look at it. No problem. All right, so I chose the basic template algorithm because it's just a really good place to start to make it nice and easy to set up. You could create your own for this, but you definitely don't have to. Now, the ticker we were looking at was Fume. So I am going to modify this algorithm a little bit to make sure it has the data I'm looking for. We did daily, so make sure that you're equity, your add equity call includes the proper resolution. And then we'll pick a date that we know we have it. I know that we have it after February 14th. So let's just start there. And because we generated all the way to the end of the year, it should be good to go to the end of the year, but we probably won't even have to get that far. Something you want to check before running your algorithm is to check your config. I actually came in here earlier and made this change myself, but by default, it is basic template framework algorithm. Change it to basic template algorithm to point lean to the right class to run. If you look at this, there's actually options to change to Python, all sorts of different environments, but just for backtesting, all you need to do is change the algorithm type name to the file that you're using, the class name you're using under the C# algorithm project. So it looks like we have everything set and squared away. I put a breakpoint here in on data so we could see that first piece of data enter the algorithm. And with that, I'm going to hit start. And I see we have a question from Lee as well. I will address that as soon as I finish this section. So it looks like we got our piece of data that we were expecting, which is great. Now the object containing the data is complicated. There's a lot of parts to it. You know, we're moving futures change, options change, all that. But because in my algorithm, I only subscribed to Fume daily data, all we expect to see in these bars is a Fume bar. And there it is. As we can see, this bar was created the day of 2013 to 213 to 214, so February 13th to the 14th. It has all the data we expect. Then, just like all the tutorials show you, if you set your holdings, you can define that you want to have 100% of your portfolio to this symbol. I picked this specific algorithm just to make it easy to add the data and look at it, but definitely give it a try. Look at something a little more complex. There's plenty of options here under the C# project to try it with. Lots of ones that even I don't know how they all work, but give it a try. So this concludes a very basic use of the data we created. So that's all I have for you today, but I'm going to take some questions. Please take a look at the resources I provided and give it a try. So Lee said, if we're going to install Lean locally with Linux and a Docker, is Lean with Linux faster or slower than Lean with Windows in terms of performance? Although Linux does use mono for Lean, in my testing and my experience, running it in the Docker versus running it in Windows, and in the Docker it also uses mono, the performance is pretty much the same, negligibly different. I know that we're moving to net standard and in the future here, and I've actually heard that so it might bring some performance improvements. So I guess we'll see how that reflects. But the nice thing is Linux will also have net core and won't have to depend on mono anymore. No problem. Anybody else?
Are you saying, Colton, that this build of Lean uses .NET Core?
Currently, we are .NET 4.6.2, but we are in the process of migrating towards .NET standards, so we can use .NET Core in the Linux environment, use whatever .NET framework is applicable to all environments.
Oh,
So right now we are on 4.6.2 still.
So you're really just, I mean, natively you're with Windows unless you use Mono.
Yes, we do have our Docker file that has Mono built into it, and as I said, I don't see any downside. I'm pretty sure I ran some benchmarks when I first built my new PC for running it in the Docker image through Mono and running it just directly through VS, and the results were the same.
Thank you.
No problem. Thanks, Nick. All right, I think that's it. Lexi?
Yeah, thank you so much, Colton, for presenting. Does anybody have any last questions for Colton? Nope. Okay. Well, I think if nobody has any more questions, that's where we can wrap it up tonight. Thank you, Colton, for presenting with us today, and all of you for joining us. As a reminder, we hold these meetups on the last Thursday of the month. We hope to see you again at the next month. To develop and deploy your strategies, please visit QuantConnect.com, and to stay up to date on new events, be sure to follow us on Twitter at QuantConnect. Okay, everybody have a great night and have an even better weekend.
All right. Hey, Colton.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't want to take many people's time, but I have some more questions if I could ask you.
Yeah, I'm totally down for that. I'm here.
So the first question is, who do you know that's making money with this? Like, is it like I, I'm kind of asking myself some questions about, do I want to do this or not, and invest my time in it. I mean, I enjoy computers. I enjoy being able to do algorithms and backtesting. It all looks neat. But at the end of the day, I'd like to have an automated process that'll make me something.
Right.
So talk to me about your anecdotal experience with that.
Yeah. Well, what you're getting to is the hard point of algorithmic trading, is that there isn't a guaranteed path to making money, right?
Right.
It's about
yeah.
I'm no math major, and in that I'm aware that my strategies can't be as well, they can be with the right help, aren't as technical as those that have that background. And from what I know is that the people that have like funds and have the help that they need to create those strategies, is that seems to be where it takes off and where people actually start to make money. Either a fund comes in and builds their own strategy and sells it as like an ETF. We have some people that do that. Or you get a talented quant that comes in and builds strategies and starts leasing them to other people as an alpha stream. And that's another avenue for QuantConnect. I think that's actually a pretty big one, especially just considering that individuals can come onto the platform, learn how to develop these strategies, and then sell them to other people is probably, I would say, is the fastest way to make money, right? Unless you have money already. But yeah, it's difficult. I know as an engineer, I'm good with writing C# code. I'd like to think I'm good with writing C# code. I'm good with understanding the process of building the architecture of Lean. But when it comes to writing strategies, I am just as green as most people are. It's a different beast, I would say, than just regular computing.
Okay, well, I would like to hear if, like, the first thing I'd like to hear is there a reasonable hope of, well, I guess I'm, I know it's a hard question to answer, and I'm trying to put, I guess, as I think about my first question, the other one, I guess, is, does the simplest algorithms, I'm trying to look at Occam's razor that says the simplest thing. I mean, I have seen algorithms that like nobody will understand except for the writer.
Right.
And I am just asking if you have seen either simpler wins, because what I just heard you say is that highly complex wins.
Yeah, I guess I don't want to say that it is limited to only complex algorithms, because I have seen simpler strategies perform well. And I think what you're getting at with Occam's razor is true, yet it's so difficult to try to measure the effectiveness of one strategy, because at one point in time it may be amazing and then at another it's not. The most basic algorithm we have in here, it's hard to call it an algorithm, is just buy and hold SPY, and that works during certain sectors of time. But one of the ones that I would point you to as just a good one to look at that I like, as a straightforward, not super complex yet strong, is the price earnings anomaly strategy. Let me see if I can find the link to that real quick here. What it uses is the fundamental data on price earnings for stocks. It filters all tickers that it has access to by their fundamental price earnings. And then those that have a really, it's a really low price to earnings,
Right.
would be undervalued in theory, according to what most people would think, right?
Right.
And it can select those stocks and purchase them. And I actually ran that through a backtest once on our platform, and it performed pretty well. But in the last year, things have changed. Like, our market is so volatile. I noticed that when it got to that time zone, wasn't so great. It's very interesting, but that is a prime example of one it's not that crazy, yet it performs. Let me see if I can find that price earning.
Sure, I'd really like the link, and I'm just enjoying this. So if it's okay, I'll just keep asking my questions, but I'm just tell me if you have to stop. So
no, you're good.
So like is there a place that people post open source algorithms that are currently making a certain percentage?
I know that on the forums, there will be a lot of people who will share their backtest results and talk about their strategies and work together. In terms of releasing strategies that perform really well, I would think that most people might hide them. But I have seen, not too long ago, after Quantopian shut down, we had some people talking about an in and out strategy that a lot of people on Quantopian were using. And that's on our forum, just straight up available, open source, right there, built for QuantConnect. And if you look at those strategies, they're good. They're good strategies. And it's like, okay, so there are people out there that are putting it out there. I'd say your best bet is to look at the forums, talk to some people, and get some advice, because a lot of people out there know a lot more than I do about these strategies, or about how to strategize and how to be an effective quant. And I just linked that price earnings anomaly as well. And it looks like Derek posted our entire strategy library as well.
Yeah, Nick, you might want to take a look at that. That's just a large collection of strategies built on our platform that they display how they've performed in the past. And then you can take it and you can change it however you want, and you can even live trade them.
Some
Cool.
written by Derek himself, actually.
Yeah, exactly.
Derek, I mean, I don't know how to ask this, but like, you know, have you seen people make money with this? I mean, just like anecdotally.
I mean, when you look at the Wikipedia page for automated trading, it says that 75% of the trades placed in the market in 2014 were placed by automated computers. So
Wow.
I don't know. I just think if there's that many players in the game, that's just kind of your evidence that somebody's making money somewhere. But yeah, as Colton was saying, it's a hard game it's hard to get these strategies to work because there's a trade-off between overfitting and having just a very simple strategy that works. That's just something that you guys already touched on.
Right. I think the overfitting part is huge. If you are looking at one range of time and you are trying to force this beautiful return, you are probably going to overfit. You're not going to be versatile enough to fit in any environment. And that's why with our alpha streams, we rank them by their Sharpe ratio, because we can have, it's the best metric that we can put on it to say, this is a good bet. You know, this is a good idea to put your money into versus those that don't have good Sharpe ratios.
Okay. So I know nothing about, like, I remember you had mentioned the Quantopian
Mhm.
that went out of business. And so are there competitors to QuantConnect? I know nothing about any of your competitors.
Oh yes, it's actually pretty big. I think for the longest time, quants in quantitative trading was pretty much kept to banks and banks alone. You know what I mean? They ran the scene and they knew that what they were doing was effective and that if they kept it in-house that it would be beneficial. But at this point, QuantConnect with Quantopian falling off is the lead in the algorithmic trading space. There are other people building engines and trying to build like tools, like pieces of tools. But in terms of comprehensive, like having access to all these different things, even though lean can be complicated, that's because it has all the tools available that you'll need. I truly believe that it is the leader in algorithmic trading.
Okay. And why is that?
Pretty much time sank into developing the engine, and then the open source community that we have and the people that we have working with us, as well as just the versatility of the tool. I mean, just now, I think in the last month, one of our engineers put in future options, and I don't think anybody else has that. Being able to expand and go to more brokerages and more securities is pretty much the way that we are encompassing everything, that we can be that trading platform for all types of securities.
Yeah, I mean,
Hey Nick, this is Eugene Lights. But listening to the conversation, great.
Colton, can you hear him?
He kind of cut off there for a second. Are you there?
Actually, it's going in a direction that ability to do from crypto to options to the regular equity asset class. I don't think I looked and I couldn't find anything. That's the reason why I was on Quantopia. I looked everywhere, but QuantConnect is the only place you can find all of that. And I hope that they are going to expand some of their brokerages. That's still, I guess, the thing that they're talking about. But expand their list of brokerages would be awesome too.
For sure, that's definitely a priority to figure out which ones are the best to go forward. You know, the hard part for us to work with these brokerages is that we have to work through their interface, right? Whatever API they give us is our limitation. And if there's issues building our interface around it, even though we built it to be as modular as possible. Working through them, convincing them that they want to partner with us and all that is the hard part, you know?
Yeah, I was disappointed with the Alpaca falling out, because they're building a brokerage that's basically for algorithmic trading, and
Right.
not for, so they have the tools, but they're in Silicon Valley, so their mindset is more the Silicon Valley big tech. I want to take your data and sell it.
Take it all. Yeah. I'm actually really disappointed too, because I have an Alpaca brokerage account and now I'm unable to live trade through that interface. And yeah, I think we're looking for alternatives to kind of fill that void, especially with Alpaca being the zero commission brokerage that they are. But yeah, that's part of the challenge.
This is great. I enjoy the conversation because it's one of the most valuable parts. So tell me about the people that work there at QuantConnect, and why really what it comes down to in many companies are the people that make the difference. So what is it about QuantConnect that's going to make it keep going and be successful? I mean, you just told me because of the time they put in, but I'm interested about the people.
Yeah, that's it's interesting because we are small. There's not a lot of us, but what we do have is that every single individual seems to have their specialty, as you might call it. And me being an associate software engineer, I'm on the lower rung. I actually am pretty new. I started last year after graduating from UW in computer engineering. And just the amount of skill that comes from the people I work with is insane, actually. And I think about why, like, how did they get started at QuantConnect? I thought about why I got started with QuantConnect. And a lot of them, it's funny, when I look through the forums, I see posts from them when they were users. So I think that's what makes us a little bit different, was that because we went for the open source approach and having people in a community like on the forums, it created the environment where people who were interested in it also could get a job. And that's what happened with me. I was looking for work, and during the COVID crisis, I was really concerned that it wasn't going to be possible. And one day I just happened to be on the QuantConnect Lean GitHub because I was using the platform in school, or I was trying to use it, not for school, but I liked the idea of algorithmic trading, and I saw the listing and I applied. And it's like, wow, the fact that I could go from being a user to a worker to back it, and just the amount of knowledge that has come from working with them is huge. And I kind of see that through most of our team, honestly.
Cool. That's encouraging. And so the main places for interaction, learning, you've got your tutorials, I've got the person I can sign up with.
Mm-hmm.
You've got your Slack channel, which I've got to get through the rest of my training to get access to it.
Oh yeah.
Or at least 50%. I think I'm 50% through. But and then I can. But those are, and you've got your channel on YouTube. Is there any other places besides YouTube and Slack and obviously the community that you recommend?
Definitely the community. From what it sounds like you're looking for, the forum, the discussion boards is the way. I know that they've put a lot of work into the discussion format boards too lately to try to get people to communicate effectively. Like we added the Reddit type stickers that you can tag onto things. We're trying to create an engaging environment for people to work together, because that is the core of our business, really, right? So if there's anywhere I'd recommend, it's the QuantConnect community board on the discussions. I guess I'll just put a link here too.
Yeah, I mean, I'm there. I'm about halfway through the boot camp, and it's been really good. So I appreciate all of that. And so I see some of the pieces, and now I just have I have two somewhat unrelated questions, but I really would like your opinion on.
Mhm.
So the first is, what is the deal with what happened with, is it Robinhood and all this trading of game
Oh,
game
GameStop. Yeah.
stop, and is there any algorithmic part that's like, like what was that?
Uh, you know, I don't have an answer to what that was, but I think I know what you're getting at. And
It was the Reddit users.
the Reddit users, Wall Street Bets, right? They short squeezed the heck out of this because it was shorted so much by institutional investors. And I don't know, I've seen plenty of memes already. I've seen plenty of jokes being made, but if you're asking what kind of strategy that I would think would work with that, I mean, I might not have the best idea, but in my head, the first thing that pops to mind is volatility strategies. That is an extremely volatile event. I mean, jumping 300% in a single day is insane. Um, and I don't know what the strategy would be built around that, but that would be the thing that would catch my algorithm's eye, if that makes sense. That's what I would filter by. Some large spike in volatility, very abnormal behavior, and then trying to capitalize on that is up to the strategizer.
Okay. And so across these algorithms, I can sell options, I can buy options,
Yep.
I can do all the things I could in a commodities trading. I'm it's just all automated, right?
Yep. Yep. I
Okay.
mean, you do have to have, the groundwork of deciding that behavior, but yes, it can be all automated. And if you build something that is universal enough to be able to be used for any stock that just fits some sort of parameters that you set, some sort of restrictions, then yeah.
Okay. I can't imagine doing this without doing test driven. That's just
Yeah, I mean that's what the backtesting is all about. I mean, if you build an algorithm and you queue up a backtest and you run it, you can see what's going on. You can see what you're missing, where you're not hitting. If you add the debugger in the web ID, you can really like take a step and say like, okay, this is where my algorithm's making the wrong decision, and now I need to refine that behavior and make it better.
all right. Last question here is unrelated, but are you familiar with Warren Buffett's bet with it was with the hedge fund manager. He basically bet $1 million that Vanguard 500 would beat the hedge fund. You familiar with that?
I'm not familiar with that. That's kind of funny.
So let me post this NPR show. I was just curious if anybody who had heard of it. He said, okay, 10 years, I bet you I can make more money in just Vanguard 500 than you can with all your algorithms. And you can listen to it, but I was just curious if you'd heard of it, and because it kind of like flies at why do this, and just use a very simple low fund mutual. I mean, low cost mutual fund.
Yeah.
So I was just curious if you'd heard of it. Not that this is the end all of things. I just thought it was applicable.
Yeah, I mean it's something to look into. That's the thing is about in the world of the markets, there's always, I mean the GameStop thing is crazy. Everybody's still reeling over that. But like tomorrow there'll be something different. I mean, even Elon Musk tweeting today about what did he tweet about? CD Projekt Red sent the shares up 13%. It's like little things like that. I don't think there's a way to perfectly capture all the stuff you need to turn it into an algorithm, but the idea is to start searching and keep an eye out for those things.
Okay. It's 10 o'clock and I know your meeting's over, but Colton, you've been very kind to take my questions, and Derek, thank you for jumping in there, and other people. I just want to know if I really, how much of my time that I should invest in this.
You got this. I'd say it's worth it. I'd say put the time in. It's gonna be work, but if you have the motivation to go that far with it, then it will work for you. And that's the goal. I mean, that's the goal everybody's looking for, right? Is that you can do something that you can leave passively for you and adjust from time to time with the right work, but not have to just day trade directly. I mean, nobody really likes sitting in front of a screen like that.
Right. All right. Well, thank you for your very valuable time today. And for everybody who stayed on, I appreciate you listening.
Yeah, thank you for your questions, Nick.
Yeah, you know, I mean, this is possibly something that would really help, you know, many people. I mean, heck, yeah, if you could have an automated money machine. But all right, thanks so much for your valuable time. I'll talk with you later.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Have a good
Have a
night,
great weekend, everybody.